was noticed and posted for our work sessions on budgets to begin. This is Tuesday, April the 16th, 2024. We're in the Board of Supervisors hearing room, Melody Lane, Bisbee. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.02H, the public will have physical access to the meeting place 15 minutes ahead of time prior to the meeting, and any item on this agenda is open for discussion. We begin with the roll call. District 1.
Crosby is here.
District 2, Supervisor English is present. District 3.
Supervisor Judd is here.
We have a complete board this morning. Members of the public may also attend this meeting by Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app or by phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 723-030-434 #. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. Work sessions are a time for the county staff to inform and discuss agenda items with the Board of Supervisors, and public comments will not be taken. As always in work sessions, we like, especially for the record, before you begin to speak, if you would give your name and who you represent so we have a complete record of the attendance and who is speaking. So I'm going to turn it over to Richard Karwachka, our county administrator, about the discussion on the county budget for the county attorney's office.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Supervisor Judd, Supervisor Crosby. So here today we have the county attorney's office to present the budget presentation. Quick and short introduction.
That was very quick and very short. Good morning, Brian McIntyre, Cochise County Attorney. Have with me my Chief of Staff, Kenny Reeves, Christine Roberts, who's my Chief Civil Deputy, and Lori Zuko, my Chief Criminal Deputy. The board is already aware because you get the civil side briefing on stats and of the workload there. Last year, we made a request, and thank you very much for approving it, to add some staff in civil to handle this workload. We had a little tense moment because just when we added staff and hired that position, one of our lawyers left to go make more money and probably do less work on post. And so we were full in civil and then immediately short in civil, but we've successfully recruited a new lawyer there as well. On the criminal side, I presented kind of a narrowed down presentation similar to last year's presentation of what things look like for us in criminal. Specifically, I will go kind of a little ways into this to focus on this. This is the very clear, constantly, unfortunately, it appears increasing number of felony events that are occurring in the county. Now, candidly, as I look at this, a lot of it relates to border crimes. In fact, if you look at the number earlier in the packet, there's 2023, 406 border crime cases filed compared to 275 in 2022. Now, 2022 is when the effective date of our new human smuggling statute was. It was late 2022. So once we were able to actually approach that area, then we did what felt was right and charged the statute. But as a result, that's the majority of our increase there in 2023 is related to human smuggling events. Thankfully, misdemeanor caseloads have remained somewhat consistent. What's odd about misdemeanors is you get one justice court will suddenly kind of slow down, and then for whatever reason, a different justice court amps up. So it's hard to maintain the balance there in terms of resource allocation within the office. But nonetheless, we continue to do more with the same, is what I'll say. Haven't added staff on the criminal side other than our 2 border crime secretary positions that are funded through DEMA. But by way of comparison, 2014, the last year prior to me becoming county attorney, 614 felony cases as compared to last year, 1,567. And that's filed felonies. So realistically, we got close to 2,000 submissions from law enforcement, and we filed roughly 83% of those submissions. We continue to utilize the ERC court process. In particular, when we talk about resources and what increased filings mean to resources, ERC is the reason the court system is still flowing, essentially. But just to highlight, without going too much into the facts of the case, Lori will be, along with a co-chair, her name is Rachel Raines, one of my deputy county attorneys. She'll be beginning the Felix Mendez trial. When is that?
May 20th.
And it's set for?
It's set for 4 weeks. We
4
should
weeks.
finish it in 3.
So in an office on the felony floor where it's myself and 6 other lawyers, 2 of them will be completely unavailable for 3 to 4 weeks and leading up to it another couple weeks at least. Essentially we just balance the load amongst the other lawyers during that time period. That case is very important publicly and to the community because it is a local victim who was unfortunately killed during a smuggling event. That being said, the good news for our presentation is we don't have a lot of big asks this year. Haven't asked for another lawyer or another legal assistant. Don't know where I'd put them other than we just lost a lawyer, but we have someone else coming in already predicted for June. And so our main ask at this time, I'll have Penny kind of go over the details, but really just relate to as every department, I would imagine, is experiencing an increase in cost. And then just like last year where we asked that the board fund a potential backstop for our VOCA grant, it's not guaranteed that money would be used. Last year you guys funded it so we would be sure that we maintained our victim advocates even if VOCA doesn't get fully funded. And then thankfully a combination of individuals came through with a patch and we didn't have to use that money and it would be the same this year. But I'll turn it over to Kenny unless you guys have questions for me.
I have a question based on that. You know, the VOCA funding that you've asked for is $65,000 in 25. And so are you assuming that money won't come from other sources for that victim person?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do on a budgetary, at this time with the budget is anticipate the worst. And then we continue to hope and push for the best for whatever people may think about the 2 individuals I'm going to name, but Governor Hobbs and Chris Mays, realistically, last year they did come through with funding and VOCA is important. So I think that'll happen again this year, but I need to be able, I guess, to go back to my victim witness, my advocates who, like during Lori's trial, will be spending every day with any victim that's in court. And then going back to the office and answering victim phone calls and then going back and sitting with the victims again. I need to be able to tell them, look, post July 1st, no matter what happens with VOCA, you'll still be here because we need them very much.
I didn't realize until I read the information in here that you have the responsibility of, and I'm not sure I understand what the first degree is, of any victim that you're supposed to entitle to victim services, any first degree relative. What does that mean?
So first degree spouse, child, and grandparent. So as an example,
Parents
or sorry, parents.
and grandparents, but parents.
It depends on who's deceased. How's that? So as an example, when we have, in the Dillard's case, a failure to yield rollover high-speed chase involving multiple undocumented individuals in the truck. 3 of them are deceased. Now, law enforcement has to make best efforts to make contact with family members, and we are required by statute to provide them victim services. So notification of all dates, communicate with them about potential pleas, you need.
So that's a lot of people.
It absolutely is, and it's a lot of, given what we're dealing with currently, it's a lot of Spanish or other language individuals.
In my trial, we have to fly in 2 UDA victims for trial. So we have to provide the pickup at the airport, bring them in. We have to provide the interpreter is going to come on a weekend to prep them for trial with me. We have to house them here for at least the first week of trial, give them a per diem, fly them back. And this is just ongoing. This increase in homicides, especially as related to human smuggling, has just increased our strain on our victim unit and our resources as far as Kenny's going to talk about it, the witness travel expenses and everything like that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, as Brian was saying, the listed increases here on the first page, really, cell phone expenses is a combination of we have more staff that need to utilize cell phones, and the cost of cell phones have gone up, and we haven't asked for an increase. But what's happening in many years, and what's happening is that fund line just goes into the negative every year, and so we want to make that whole. And that's about the amount that we project that we need to do that. The library and access and law books, Thompson West, the law books used to be when I came on board 8 years ago, were a couple $100 a piece, and now they're nearly double that. The library expenses as well. They didn't charge it. They didn't tell us they were going to start charging us another fee. I think it was just tax that they hadn't charged us before, but we have a contract with the defense side, so we get a discount through Thompson West for this, and they do a purchase order every year, and that's paid. But last year we were short. Our office was short about $3,000 just for that library cost, and then. So we're pulling from other funds in order to make sure that we've got up-to-date law books and whatnot.
So are we still actually buying books instead of just going online?
We're doing both.
Yeah, there's a combination, and I'll explain the reason for it. So Thompson West, we use their online service as well, right? Mostly for legal research into case law, things like that, researching other jurisdictions. But then each of the lawyers on the criminal side gets the Arizona Criminal Law and Traffic Manual. It's got the criminal rules. It's got all of the relevant criminal statutes and traffic statutes that we deal with as prosecutors day in and day out. The reason, and a lot of, to get to your question, a lot of police agencies have gone away from having their cop have a book. And it's highly problematic because the newest version of the statute is not always updated online. And then for us as prosecutors, if I charge a case, let's say in 2022, I need to have the 2022 statute in front of me when I'm determining how I'm going to resolve the case. If it's changed and I'm looking at a 2024 version online, I probably committing malpractice.
Thank you.
So we keep the book cost as low as possible, And in fact, I've had an
Well,
arrangement.
it's not extravagant like it used to be.
No, right, we used to
Certainly,
be-
but I was wondering, I thought, do you still buy books?
We used to-
We used to have a whole stack of books in our hallway.
Yeah, and we used to buy pocket parts to update the old
Right.
statute books. Those subscriptions are all gone for us. In fact, I have an agreement with court administration. When the judges get their new updated softbound Arizona revised statutes that have the case sites in them, when they get the new ones, I take 2 of their old sets. So we always have that, but we're not having to purchase it.
Thank you.
And so then the next item was the office supplies. That's just, as you know, if you've been at the grocery store lately, everything is going up in our office supplies. It's included in that. So this is for to help cover civil, criminal side and the misdemeanor side, or felony and misdemeanor side as well. And the drug unit, since we no longer have RICO funds in our office that was covering certain expenses. But we still have a drug unit that needs office supplies, so that figure would cover that as well. We included an email that we got from Carpel software. That's our case management system. They're charging upcoming $100 more per user as a hosting fee, and so that is where the $6,450 comes from for that request. And then we included some training that both on the civil and the criminal side, and maybe if the chiefs of those departments want to mention what training that they're looking at making available for their attorneys.
Well, specifically on the civil side, now that we have an additional attorney, additional paralegal, there's the cost of going to the ASIP conference that has increased, where we go every year, and we basically go to all the LCLE that we need to continue with our legal license, various other training that come up during that period. So it's not, the prices have gone up some, but it's also that we have additional staff that we need to adjust the training budget.
And for our training increase, well, number one, a lot of our training budget goes to our Carpel administrator. She goes to a conference in St. Louis every year, and that has eaten into the attorney training budget. But it's important that she goes to that because it's important that we have someone that is up to date on Carpel, because we use it for our whole office. But then also, most of our attorneys can get their mandatory continuing legal education at the bulk of it at the summer conference that APAC does. But we have so many more felony cases, and we have to have 1 or 2 attorneys that stay behind from that conference in order to manage the office and go to emergency hearings and wet signature filings that we have to do. And so then we have to send them to another training. And in previous years, APAC would fund them to attend another training to make up for that, and APAC's no longer funding that.
And just a little add-on there is the annual conference gives you essentially 1.5 hour blocks, and then on Fridays, 1 hour blocks of this area of law training. But that doesn't, for a prosecutor who's taking on their first sex case, complex child sex case, we should be able to send them to a 2 or 3 day training on how to go from nuts and bolts, start to finish on these child sex cases or other complex homicides, things like that. And so that's also the purpose. We need to make sure that we're able to improve the skill set in ways that you just don't get in a couple hour block. You're going to get the 30,000 foot view instead of nuts and bolts.
And just to clarify, APAC stands for?
Oh, Arizona Prosecuting Attorney Advisory Council?
Just for the people out there listening, I think most of us know what that is.
And I said ASIP.
ASIP, which is Arizona.
Arizona County Insurance Pool. They put on a public practice legal practice, and HR seminar every year for us, which we go to. We have the 1.5 hour blocks, and the hour block is able to get our CLE.
And UDA stands for Undocumented Alien?
Yes.
All right. All right.
And to mention something that's not on this list that we're not asking, was, and Sharon can attest to this, there was an increase this year of the return to competency. That fund was expended months ago, but we're not anticipating having the same reason for that, which was that it was due to one individual. I think 8.75 of that particular fund, and so we're anticipating it to go back to normal this year, and so we didn't ask for that to be subsidized at all. But of course, it's being subsidized right now because Sharon keeps getting my emails as we get invoices from Dr. Sloan's office.
And once that individual was restored to competency, he was taken to trial, convicted on all counts, and is not going to be exiting prison first.
And that's separate from Title 36.
Correct.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
In terms of legal sense, it was money well spent, I guess.
I looked at the number of new cases, and I'm wondering the relevance, because attorneys don't work fast.
Well, you haven't seen the people in my office.
Cases don't get solved, in a little while. So what is, if I looked at an attorney for your office, let's say, the whole thing, not one attorney, but you're looking at all of these that were filed in 2023, but actually how many cases are being worked on? Not just the ones that were filed in 2023. I bet you have some that are from 2021, 2022.
Yeah, Lori's trials from,
My trial's from 2021.
and
But that's what I'm saying is, so I don't know that this is a true picture of
The number of open, active cases is higher than the filings problem, but some cases do get resolved. So some of them have already closed out. Because early resolution court does resolve a lot of cases.
Yes. I'm all for that. I'm just wondering, I don't know that this is the true picture. If a public person looked at this, they go, well, they've only got this many. And you
Fairly
go,
accurate.
well, I mean, yeah, you have to look at closure rate. So we have in Superior Court one of the higher closure rates across the state, thankfully, due to ERC. But when we talk about a case being worked on, every case that got filed, that means an attorney had to go in, review typically all of the reports, and this is a 48-hour case, in which case all we have is a PC statement usually, but review all the reports, check in on body cam, listen to interviews, etc., make a charging decision, prep the complaint for the secretary to file. So there are some that are filed that were worked on, but are not currently being worked because we're waiting on the defendant's court date, right? But then in the meantime, we have still 2022 cases and 2023 early cases and some 2021 cases. And so when you look at most of the felony attorney caseloads, the way we think of it is the distinction between pending versus indicted. So an indicted case means there's a court hearing coming up or have been court hearings. So most, I think the average would be roughly 150 pending cases with then 50 to 60 indicted, presently going forward cases. And it does depend a little on what the attorney does. So our drug unit lawyers almost always have a higher number of indicted cases, but those cases are not as complex as general crimes, homicides, things like that. But it's still the case now, I guess, the only attorney in the office that doesn't have an open homicide case is me, but I have an open serial rapist case.
But did you mean, considering that there's cases from the past years that are also still open and being worked on, the number's actually higher?
right.
Yeah. And I think it's just because then some of the newer cases have actually closed out that, the number of indicted cases is probably close to the number of open cases because of the new ones that are closed and the old ones that are still pending. It would even out, I think.
We try to keep it that way. We try as best as possible. If you're not resolving cases, then the new cases are never going to get resolved.
Board members, questions, comments?
That's a good question. I think I understood what we're saying is that, or why the reason for that question in your explanation means that there may be only 40 new cases in the month, but still your workload is about 150
Mm.
cases at any given time.
Yeah.
So that's why you're busy and why you need all the attorneys and yeah, because it's not just those 40 cases that you did that month.
Right.
Here is something that I've shown my colleagues before, and it is 11-1051 out of the ARSs. And the title is Cooperation and Assistance in Enforcement of Immigration Laws Indemnification. And the top sentence reads, no official agency of the state or a county, city, town, or other political subdivision of the state may limit or restrict the enforcement of federal immigration laws to less than the full extent permitted by federal law. And on the back of this is a couple more federal laws having to do with immigration inadmissibility and a couple sections of law in Title 8 U.S.C. 1181, 1153, and 1182, which point out the concept of excludability. So I am in favor of preventing illegal entry. Yes, preventing illegal entry. Because to the extent that illegal entry is prevented, failures to yield fentanyl deaths, court costs, medical costs, and corporation are all decreased by the amount of prevention of illegal entry that occurs. Texas is ignoring the Supreme Court's claim to sole jurisdiction on the border, which doesn't exist as per the U.S. Constitution. And the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says all unenumerated powers end up with the people. That concludes my comments. Thank you very much.
Did you have any comments that were relevant to the county attorney budget that we're discussing today?
Well, actually, that's very much just failure to yield, and I did mention that in my comments. So we're talking about multiple deaths related to failures to yield, and I believe that we also talked about multiple deaths attributed to fentanyl, which you are probably aware is a big problem. So if the county attorney brings up border enforcement, then I decided to include my comments on border enforcement, which are primarily prevent illegal entry.
And I bet he wishes he could do that.
Going to need another building and
That's not on your plate, is it? Okay, well, if there are no further questions, any comments from anyone from the county attorney's office before I close this?
no, thank you for your time.
Hearing none, then I'll tell you that our next meeting is at 11 for the work session, specifically with the county school superintendent. Other than that, you all have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.